You're watching Scriptease. In today's episode, we'll be breaking down a scene from No Country for Old Men. You can expect spoilers for the whole film. Writer-director duo Joel and Ethan Coen, aka the Coen Brothers, are masters of the page, creating vivid images of unfolding action. Thematically, the Coen Brothers tend to tackle crime stories through the lens of heightened reality. Miller's Crossing, The Big Lebowski, and Fargo are all great examples of this ideology. Small stories with larger-than-life characters form the backbone of the Coen Brothers' success. As a screenwriter, I find their process incredible. The Coen Brothers are renowned for incredibly accurate translation of their scripts to screen, with little being changed in the filmmaking process. More so than many other screenwriters, a Coen Brothers screenplay really does feel like a blueprint for a film. Their vision is so clear on the page that the film begins to appear in your head, with cinematic shots and cleverly woven audio cues. Today, I want to demonstrate how the Coen Brothers bring film to life via text by looking at the script for No Country for Old Men. Plot-wise, No Country for Old Men is a film about the hunt. The prey is Llewellyn Moss, a welder and Vietnam vet who happens across a drug deal gone wrong and makes off with the cash. Anton Chigurh, a hitman, is hired to take him down and bring the money back. Chigurh acts as an agent of death, a ruthless killer with his own twisted code. Both Moss and Chigurh's ability to deduce, improvise, and fight has been established throughout the first half of the film. The scene we'll be breaking down occurs after an initial close encounter at the Del Rio Motel. Growing ever closer, Moss and Chigurh are finally set for a bloody skirmish in a town bordering Mexico called Eagle Pass. We start with a quick establishing line of the Eagle Pass town square. This bit of description stops the action from becoming confusing later on when the fight spills out of the hotel and onto the streets. Inside the hotel, the clerk is convinced by Moss to play sentry with the help of a $100 bill. The Coen Brothers are well known for making even their smallest roles full of character. Just a couple of tiny details, like reading Ring magazine and smoking a hand-rolled cigarette, make the clerk feel real, like a human being rather than just a machine at reception. When Chigurh pays him a visit later, we'll feel just that little bit more terrible about his fate. Once we're in Moss's hotel room, the real fun begins. In the final film, there's no soundtrack. This allows all the sound effects to stand out, cueing the audience in to important details. This ideology begins back in the script, where Moss gains information about what's happening outside using sound. We start with Mexican music floating up faintly, and then the brothers bring us into the moment. The room is dark, the music is gone. These two short sentences, plus the time jump, make a sharp shift in mood, setting a blank slate upon which to build tension. The camera shot here of booming straight down towards Moss also absorbs us into the moment, bringing us inside Moss's mind. Throughout the scene, we'll get multiple references to Moss's thought process, so this shot alters our way of thinking about silence. After finding the tracking device, there's a sound that puts Moss on alert. A dull chug. The sound is hard to read. A compressor going on, a door thud, maybe something else. The ambiguity of the sound signals Moss's paranoia. We're right there with him. We don't know if the sound is benign or, as it turns out to be, Chigurh's silenced shotgun. Moss rings reception and listens out for the phone downstairs. It rings unanswered. The tension builds a little more. Moss puts his ear to the crack at the bottom of the door and hears an open, airy sound, like a seashell put to your ear. Finally, as Moss settles on the bed, we hear the faint, high-frequency beeping of Chigurh's transponder approaching. Each of these sounds cuts through the silence, demanding our full attention and filling our imagination with what could be on the other side of the door. The next part of the sequence plays with light to create the same effect. The line of light underneath the door acts as an indicator. First, it's blocked by a soft shadow which lingers there. Chigurh feels like a spirit in this moment, or as Sheriff Bell later calls him, a ghost. Then the shadow resolves into two columns of dark before disappearing to the side. It's like Moss is being toyed with, but he's too smart to think that he's in the clear. The brothers cut between Moss's stare and the line of light under the door, creating anticipation. When the light is suddenly blocked, dramatic irony is created. We, the audience, knows what comes next thanks to the earlier motel scene, and Moss is right in the firing line. The brothers have ratcheted up the tension using sound, light, and back-to-back short sentences. Now, we're just waiting for it to break. The report of the captive bolt pistol cracks through the silence, indicated by the use of an end dash, and hits Moss with the locked cylinder. The brothers share a small aside. It is all strange. It's rare for the Coen brothers to write action text that can't be seen or heard, but it works here to emphasize the oddity of the moment. Moss is completely confused for the first time in the script, and he panics, firing at the presence behind the door. This panic is marked not only by a shift in Moss's actions, but by a shift in sentence structure and formatting. Instead of short sentences on their own lines, we get longer sentences with fewer breaks in between. The sentences are lengthened using conjunctions like as to show simultaneous action from both Moss and Chigurh. He grabs it as inside the room the door is kicked open. Moss swings down as, with a muted thump, orange muzzle flash strobes the room. The scene feels hectic now as we switch from creeping danger to imminent peril. The next page or so sees Moss escaping the hotel while under fire from a seemingly invisible force. Even in the alleyway as Chigurh fires from the second story, we are shown the action from Moss's perspective. Chigurh's shots are soft tops, while Moss's retaliatory shots are loud, chipping off brick and shattering windows. This part in particular reminds me of the antelope that Moss takes a shot at in his opening hunting scene. The antelope is under fire from afar, panicked, wounded. To be as cliche as possible, the hunter has become the hunted. Constantly mixing up the pace of the scene, the brothers now put us back into a quiet moment as Moss recuperates and tries to figure out his next course of action. We're back to short sentences and long pauses. Long beat. Stillness. Empty street. A panicky thought, the man could round the block the other way. Moss is in serious trouble. His foe feels somehow omnipotent, like a teleporting serial killer in a slasher flick. It seems helpless. Trying to devise a plan. No basis for a plan. Quiet hesitation. Once again, the brothers use sound to shift the scene into the next stage. Now a sound. Engine noise. Moss attempts to commandeer the vehicle before Chigurh opens fire once again. A sudden interruption as indicated by the M dash at the end of Moss's speech, and the short following line. The windshield stars. For the second time, we're thrown into longer sentences, using as to indicate hectic action. The Coen brothers are playing with pace to create excitement. The quiet moments of uncertainty and deliberation create nervous anticipation that makes the bursts of action that much more exhilarating. The whole film is guided by this ideology. The coin flip scene in the service station shows that Chigurh doesn't always kill the people he meets. So then later on, when he's chatting to Carson Wells, we can reasonably believe that he might make it out of there alive. But of course he doesn't. Oof. And then again, when Sheriff Bell returns to the motel in El Paso and Chigurh is inside, we really don't know if Chigurh will decide to kill him or not. Not only is this gripping action, but it also serves the film's theme, the random nature of death. All of this is to say, the Coen brothers established this uncertainty using screenwriting techniques we've already discussed. They forego the use of capitalization, even leaving sound effects uncapitalized, but they do have other tricks up their sleeves. Altering sentence length and formatting, as I've pointed out so far, is certainly effective, but you can also look at their word choice. During the action sequences, the verb and adverb usage is far more indulgent. Cracking sheet metal, a gurgling scream as he claws at his windpipe. Moss frantically gropes for the shift. Slewing, bouncing empty street. A tremendous jounce up onto the curb. I could go on. Common writing wisdom holds that you should use powerful verbs to impact your reader. Something like walks is far less descriptive and less exciting than saunters, or strides, or trudges. But once again, I would argue in favor of contrast. If every verb is powerful, so to speak, then the effect is diminished. Using grabs in a less exciting moment means that when we use frantically gropes in a more exciting moment, it will have a bigger impact. Getting back to the scene, Moss purposely crashes the car and then backtracks, essentially setting an ambush for Chigurh. For the first time in the scene, Moss has the upper hand. Only now did the brothers choose to show us Chigurh, as he is now being hunted, walking into a trap. Of course, Moss is still nervous. He tightens his grip on his shotgun and tenses. He's unsure if Chigurh will fall for it, waiting for just the right moment, and as a consequence, we shift back to shorter sentences. Moss takes his shot. Chigurh dives out of the way, possibly dodging. The brothers use a technique we've discussed previously here to show Moss's thought process. internal questions. Shiger dive between them. Hit or not? He angles his head. Anything under the cars? I love that the brothers save this technique for the end of the scene. We won't find out for another few pages whether Shiger was injured, but this internal questioning clearly demonstrates to the reader that Moss has thoroughly checked that Shiger is gone. Still bleeding from his earlier wound, Moss now makes his way to the border to escape pursuit. Here, the short sentences aren't for tension, but to embody how slowly Moss is moving. He's severely weakened, so the pace of the film needs to slow down. This also allows the reader to recover from the action of the last sequence. This last section of the scene is great as it links so many aspects of the film together. Moss is like the wounded antelope from his opening scene, or like the Mexican cartel driver who needed water. Now it's Moss who needs help. The kids on the Rio Grande Bridge are fairly indifferent to his suffering, much like he was, at least initially, to the suffering of the cartel driver. This also mirrors the end of the film when Shiger, following his car crash, asks the local kids for help and offers them money. Characters continuously attempt to buy their way out of death, though it never works out for them. Perhaps that's why, in the coin flipping scene, Shiger is so insistent that the gas station owner not mix his lucky coin with all the rest.
Don't put it in your pocket, it's your lucky quarter.
Moss wakes up on the Mexican side of the border to an insanely cheerful mariachi song. The Mexican music that faded out at the beginning of this whole sequence is now back, tying the scene together. Still keeping us in Moss's perspective, the brothers use the camera to represent his mental state. We boom woozily up and start to undutch. From start to finish, the Coen brothers immerse us in Moss's situation. We're asked to see the chase from his perspective, facing his issues and problem solving along with him. We are fully invested in Moss's story, which, of course, makes his off-screen death all the more startling. This scene in Eagle Pass is far from being the most thematically rich scene in the film, but it perpetuates a premise. Moss is the good guy, Shiger is the bad guy. Even though Moss's efforts are ultimately undermined by theme, the impact of the theme is only as strong as the preceding setup. Each and every scene in your screenplay, no matter how vital to the story, should be executed with as much care as the Coen brothers dedicate to this shootout. Good writing and good luck.